Hello everyone and welcome to another gear video. In this particular one I will be sharing with you my current travel photography setup. I'll be explaining why I'm using certain cameras, why I'm using certain lenses and accessories, and the whole idea of this video is to just give you some ideas if you're putting together a little travel kit, or if you're just looking for some inspiration with regards to what gear to use for a particular trip, or if you're just curious like I am when other people make these types of videos. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, more on them later on, and let's start with cameras. That's kind of the main thing of this video. The first camera I can't show you because it's filming me right now, but some nice B-roll should give you an idea. It's the A7R5. This has been my main photo and video workhorse for this year, and honestly I would say 85% of all of my photos and videos that you've seen have come from this particular camera. The reason I went with this one is primarily for the sensor, but also for the hybrid shooting abilities. Whilst I am a photo first person, I am really enjoying taking these nice cinematic video clips of when I'm traveling, to the point where I would say I'm kind of 50-50 between those video clips and photography. So having this camera that can do both equally as good has been invaluable. Now, I've made a bunch of blogs and videos about this camera, so I'm not going to go into too much details, but this is the main workhorse. Moving on to the lens that's married to this camera is the 24-70 Mark II from Sony, and this is my do-it-all travel lens. If I could travel with only one lens for the rest of my life, it's this one, because this focal range covers pretty much everything you would ever need outside of some extremes. f2.8 is fast enough for most scenarios, apart from the lowest of low light situations. And with the 60 megapixel sensor, I can crop it in and get even closer than the 70mm lens would allow and still maintain decent enough resolution. It also has some pretty cool features, such as the custom buttons that you can program to whatever you want, the ability to control how smooth or tight the zooming is, as well as a few other bits and bobs that make this lens really good as an all-rounder, do-everything piece of kit. On the camera is a little microphone. It's a tiny little Sony thing. I forgot the name, I'll write it down, and it's great for picking up slightly higher quality ambient sounds, especially when I'm out in windy conditions and I can get nice clean audio for my videos. I am not big into high quality audio, so for me something like that is perfectly good enough. And lastly, on this little kit is a mini tripod, which is a little Manfrotto thing. I don't shoot with tripods. The only reason I have a tripod is for these talking head videos. With that said, I managed to use this tripod to get a long exposure of Mount Etna erupting a few months ago. So for that reason, I would still bring it with me just in case I need to do a longer exposure. While I'm here, just quickly on me is a little microphone. It's a Rode Lav, and that is plugged into my iPhone, and I use an app called, I forgot, I'll write it down. And basically that app acts as my sound recorder, and then everything is linked later. The app is really good because you can record really high quality audio that you can then adjust later without it clipping or anything else. And that creates a really minimal and clean system where I don't need to buy and bring extra things. Moving on to the second camera, it's the Sony a7CR. This is basically this camera in a smaller and lighter body without some of the pro level features, and it's paired with the 40mm f2.5 Pancake. This camera is what I would go for if I'm going for a casual day of photography, and if I am not prioritizing getting the best shots that day or working towards a project or towards a video or something like that. This is effectively my casual point and shoot daily carry, and the A7R5 is my workhorse. However, they share the same sensor, they work exactly the same, they share the same lens mount, the same battery. They're basically the same camera, just this is more optimized for being compact and light, and that's more optimized for performance. 40mm Pancake, 2.5, it's not the sharpest piece of glass, but it's so small, it's so light. For me, 40mm works as an everyday lens. However, they do make it in a 24 and a 50, so if you don't like 40, you can go for those. But for everyday documenting point and shoot, the 40mm and this whole package is absolutely great. On most of my trips, I would only come with these two lenses and these two cameras, and I don't even remove the lenses, they permanently stay on the cameras, and it's two systems. I'll just pick whichever one is suitable for what I want to do that day. However, there are two more lenses which come with me sometimes, depending on where I'm going. They don't travel with me that often, but when they do, it's because there's a specific niche reason for them. The first one is this. It's a 24-70 f2.8 zoom, and it's quite big, it's quite bulky. I wouldn't use it for street photography or in a city. However, I've used it in Nazaré this year in order to get those cool shots of the big waves, because you needed this level of reach in order to get those types of photos and to even be able to get close enough, because physically you couldn't because of the waves. I'll be using it on my next trip in January, because again, I would need it to get closer to my particular subjects, because I would be very limited. So anytime I'm in nature, anytime I'm hiking, or anytime I need to have a specific subject that's very far away, so if I ever go on a safari or something like that, this is where this lens would come in useful. Otherwise, it stays at home if it's just a city break or kind of generic travel. And the second niche lens is the 50 f1.4. This is for trips where I'll be shooting in low light. So Tokyo, Hong Kong, any of those destinations where I know I'll be out late into the night, because those cities are great for night photography, I would bring the 50 f1.4. And the reason it's a 50 and not a 35 or 85 is simply because it's just what I prefer to shoot with at night. You might prefer 35 or 85 or 24. They all come in f1.4 versions. Now let's talk about filters. I just have two little earth magnetic filter sets. This one's for the zoom and this one is for the little 40mm prime. They're both identical, just different sizes. And it's basically an ND filter and a CPL. I use an ND8 filter for pretty much everything, from videos to slow shutter speed photography. I do have an ND64 if it's really extreme, but I've never yet had to use that, so I don't think I would even bring it with me on my next trip. The CPL filter is good for reflections, for water, or to bring certain colors out in the scene. Again, it's not something that I use particularly often for my photography. However, when there is a specific need for it, then it's really helpful, because you can't fix that in editing. I've got a little Sony battery charger with two spare batteries, little USB-C thing. Really expensive, but it charges them so quickly, so I guess it's worth the money in that regard. I've got two straps from Peak Design, a little wrist strap and a neck strap. If I'm not particularly fussed about photography that day, I'll throw a camera on the neck strap and it's just by my side all the time. If I'm really focusing on photography, I would rather hold the camera in my hand with a wrist strap, because then I'm always ready to go and I'm always thinking about it. I find if the camera's just hanging around my neck or around my shoulder, photography becomes a bit more of a passive thing, whereas if I'm holding it in my hand, it's more of an active thing. So it depends on my approach that day. Moving on to the computer, and I'm just using an 11-inch M4 iPad Pro. I don't travel with my MacBook unless I specifically need a laptop for whatever it is that I am doing. An iPad is more than good enough to keep everything going whilst on the road. Now, when it comes to apps, I use DaVinci Resolve for all of my video editing, Lightroom for photo editing and cataloging, as well as backing up to the cloud whilst I'm traveling. So all of my stuff is backed up online should the worst happen. I use Affinity Suite, so Affinity Publisher, Designer and Photo for all of my publishing designing needs. So guides, the iPhone camera guide, zines, graphics, everything design related happens there. And for my blog, I use the Squarespace app, which brings me quite neatly to the sponsor. At this point, I want to quickly thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I've been a paying customer way before they supported the channel, and have now been using their services for over 5 years. Squarespace is at the center of my online presence, and it's what drives my blog, portfolio, store, and newsletter. I appreciate the simplicity of managing everything from a single app because it saves me time,
and gives me peace of mind knowing that I can make changes or deal with issues from my phone. If you have a business, a side hustle, or simply want your own little corner of the internet to host your photography or build something big, Squarespace offers all the tools you need across all devices. If you want to learn more, get a free trial and then 10% off your first purchase, use the link in the description or enter code RomanFox at checkout. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring, and thank you for watching.
Now let's move on to some accessories. The most valuable accessory to me is this. It's a Thunderbolt 4 cable by Anker. I have a bunch of these, and this cable can do everything. It can charge at the highest speeds. It can transfer data at the highest speeds. I can use it to connect my hard drives. I can use it to connect my cameras to my laptop. They've stood the test of time. I've had them now for a few years, and they literally do everything perfectly. So it's actually one of my best investments. That saves me a lot of time in the long run. Next is a mouse, like a little Apple mouse for when I'm doing video editing. It's very useful. A little Anker battery pack. I've got these Minix chargers. They are Amazon special things, but the good thing about them is they are very small and they can work in any country. A hard drive, it's the SanDisk 8TB SSD. This is basically an overspill for my laptop, as well as a backup for photos, videos, etc. Some people have told me that SanDisk are known to have big issues and crashes. However, from my understanding, the 8TB came out after that whole saga and after it's all been fixed. And touch wood, I have not had any issues with it. It's been extremely reliable. And the last accessory is a little USB-C splitter. So this goes into the iPad and it gives me 4 more USB-C ports just in case I need to plug more things into the device. When it comes to bags, this year I have switched away from Bellroy and to Peak Design outdoor line. And the main reason is because the Bellroy bags didn't have a sturdy or any hip support on their backpacks. I am traveling with just a backpack, so it is quite heavy, and I've got a small neck injury, which means I need to have some hip supports, and Bellroy just doesn't seem to want to make any bag with hip supports. So the Peak Design one has a really nice hip belt, which puts all of the weight on my hips, and it's so nice to wear. It's great. It doesn't look as good as the Bellroy bags. It certainly lacks in the organization department, but after a year's worth of use, I really love this bag and it's been everywhere with me. In terms of the slings, I've also picked up the Peak Design ones because it was a bit of a sale if I bought them together. I've got the big, I think it's a 7-litre sling, which is what I have with me as my personal item. So the iPad fits in there, as well as a few accessories. And then I have a smaller 4-litre sling, which acts as my tech pouch. So I can put all of my accessories in there in the bag, and if I'm out and about and I don't want to bring a big sling, I can just swap the straps over and have it as a little sling, so it becomes a bit of a dual purpose item. And I want to finish this video with 2 items which have nothing to do with photography, but they have saved my ass so many times. They are my most used items and I can't see myself traveling without them. The first one is this. It's a Montbell hiking traveling umbrella. It wasn't cheap, but it folds like this. It's a full-size umbrella. It kind of folds twice. It's a bit of a process to unpack it all, but once it's unpacked, it's a normal full-size umbrella. But when it's packed, I mean, this can easily go into a small sling without any problems. It weighs absolutely nothing as well. And the last accessory is this. It's a Peak Design packing cube, which compresses. A few people have asked me how do I manage to get all my clothes and stuff into the backpack, and it's using this. I put my clothes in there, I squish them down, do the second zip, and it takes up a lot less room, which means you can get more into your bag. All right, that is all for this video. I hope this was helpful. I hope it's answered a few questions. Obviously, I have other lenses at home and other bits and bobs of kit, but when I'm going on a trip, this is it, basically. This is what I'm taking with me. Anyway, thank you so much for your time watching this video. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments section below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.